What up, ladies and gents? More gents than ladies are to this type of content, but that's fine. Ladies and gent, a few ladies are out there for Sovereign CEO. This is the Sovereign CEO podcast, and I am Caleb Jones, and I help people just like you how to set up location-independent businesses, move to a less bad country, which is what we're going to talk about right now in this podcast, or at least set up a international plan B and do all these things for very little money because these things don't require a lot of money. In this podcast, I'm going to address in great detail the excuse or objection of, but there's nowhere to go. Everywhere sucks. I have addressed this objection before, but I have never done a deep dive on it, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So to be clear on what the objection is, and it takes several forms, but Caleb, there's nowhere to go. Everywhere in the world sucks. Every country in the world sucks. Every country has embraced some brand of authoritarianism because of cerveza sickness. Every country is raising their taxes. Every country's having this problem or this economic problem or this supply chain problem or so on. Every country is embracing the welfare state and socialism. Every country in the world is doing this, Caleb. And even people will say things like, a lot of people on my TikTok who are more new to this material on my TikTok videos. Yes, I'm on TikTok. You should subscribe to me over there. There's links below in this video if you're watching the video version of this. But guys on my TikTok are saying, yeah, okay, there are places that have low cost of living, but those are crime-ridden hellholes. And there's massive amounts of crime. So if you live in a lower cost of living country, you're living in a high crime country. Factually incorrect. Paraguay, Panama, Armenia, these are low cost of living countries that have lower crime rates than the United States. Yeah, but that's the basic excuse, is that yes, it sucks in my country, my collapsing high tax, authoritarian, quasi-socialist, corporatist, Western country like United States, Australia, Canada, Europe. Yeah, it's collapsing, but everywhere else sucks. Everywhere else sucks is just as bad, so there's no reason to go anywhere because there's nowhere to go. Okay, let me describe to you where you are right, and let me describe to you where you are completely wrong, because there is an element of truth to this, and I have discussed these things in my own content many times myself. We are, and I've said this several times, and people don't like when I say it, but it's accurate, we are entering into an economic and political dark age. Not a technological dark age. Technology will continue to increase, at least in the first world countries. And there are all kinds of really cool technological advances coming down the road that are going to make our lives much better. I'm not saying we're going to go backwards technologically. Technological growth will still continue and be good. Make sure you remember I said that. Because when I say dark age, people say, we're not going to go back to the Middle Ages. That's not what I said. What I said is, and I'm right, we have entered into an economic and political dark age, meaning several things. One, as I've talked about in great detail for 10 years plus, and when I talked about 10 years ago, people thought I was insane, and now those same people are circling back to my content and telling me, holy shit, Caleb, you're right all along. The Western world, the Western civilization is in a state of collapse. Not the entire world, the Western world. When I say the Western world, I mean United States, Canada, Europe, particularly Western Europe, but Eastern Europe too. Those three countries or regions, I call them the collapsing trifecta. You could also make the argument now that Australia and New Zealand are now collapsing due to their authoritarianism regarding the cerveza sickness. Not sure on that yet, but that's entirely possible. These are collapsing. They're collapsing before our very eyes, and they're going to collapse in our lifetimes. That's going to affect the entire world negatively, and that's true. People say, well, if you go to another country and the United States collapses, you'll feel it in that other country. Generally speaking, that is accurate. That is why the whole world is going to feel it when, not if, when in our lifetimes, United States, Canada, Europe are going to collapse. Now, if you want to know exactly how they will collapse, I have several videos and several blog articles where I go through the 6 possible scenarios of exactly what that'll look like. You can check those out if you want, beyond the scope of this podcast. But that is true, and that's going to make life very difficult for a lot of people all over the world over the next several decades. Economically, things are going to be very tough for a hell of a lot of people. More people than people right now realize. It's going to get really, really, really bad. Economically. Politically speaking, we have entered into an era where not only are politicians the most corrupt they have ever been in Western history, not all of history, but Western history, but the voters in these countries are more irrational than they have ever been, again, in Western history. I will use several examples. I've used these before. In my ex-home country of the United States, you have two sides. You have the left-wingers and you have the Trump supporters. These people have both gone insane. The left has always been insane. They've always lived on another planet, certainly in terms of things like economics. The right went insane around circa 2010. It's hard to pinpoint exactly when this happened, but right around when they lost to the left in terms of the culture war, around Obama's second term, the right wing basically lost their minds, and now they are just as insane as the left, if not worse. The entire Donald Trump thing shows how insane and irrational these people are. In places like Germany, you have voters gleefully re-electing people over and over again like Angela Merkel, who have imported millions and millions of third world foreigners into her country, into the German country, destroying the culture, bankrupting the welfare system, and causing all kinds of chaos. And most voters, not all of them, but most voters go, yes, this is a really good idea. That's why I call Europe suicidal Europe. Now, it's not just Germany and the United States. I could talk about Canada. I could talk about numerous European countries. I could certainly talk about India, where voters have just lost their minds and they're putting people in power who are just fucking awful. The worst we've ever seen in modern history. In the United States, we now have had 5, count them, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 completely ridiculous presidents in a row. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton. These are the most ridiculous people you could possibly choose to run a country, and these are the last 5 presidents, and it's going to get even worse. Just watch. So yes, this is affecting the entire world. And in that respect, when you say everywhere sucks, there's nowhere to go, you are partially correct. These multiple phenomenons on top of the cerveza sickness, I didn't even mention that, let's talk about that. Yes, most countries in the entire world, that's one of the most disturbing things about this cerveza sickness problem, is the sheer number of countries who have enacted these insane regulations and laws. If you live in a country that mandates that you wear a mask outside, that proves to you that your country is run by a bunch of psychotic, irrational idiots, both the politicians and the voters. By the way, that applies to countries that I like, because there are a few countries I like where they have outdoor mask mandates. Insane, and that is the norm throughout the world. You are right. This is affecting the entire world, and that's why it's even more important to engage in a sovereign CEO lifestyle, a 5 flags lifestyle, international lifestyle, so that you are more protected against these things like I am. As I've said many times, if you are stuck in one country where 100% of your income is coming from that one country, you can't leave that country for whatever reason you think, you have no other flags or bases anywhere in the world, you are stuck in that country, you are going to be among the people who are going to get crushed by this collapse and dark age we have now entered into. I will be one of the people who will not only be okay, but in many cases will benefit from what is going on. I will give several examples. In 2020, when everyone was freaking the fuck out, my investments returned 140% return. I more than doubled my entire investing net worth in 2020 by doing nothing, because my investments are based on things going badly, the Western world collapsing, which is why I do well when these horrible things happen. I don't like these horrible things happen, but I've been poised for many years for horrible things to happen because I knew they were coming. And I've benefited from this. One of my companies, this company right here, Sovereign CEO, I have made a massive amount of money that I would not have made had it not been for the chaos regarding cerveza sickness. And that's just the way it is. So I have benefited from these things. And because I am mobile, unlike most of you, because I am paying very low taxes, unlike most of you, I'm able to not only survive in these times, but thrive in these times. So the fact that everything is going wrong with the whole world, you're right, should be a wake-up call to you, should be a warning call for you that you should probably change what you're doing instead of being location dependent to one nation or one city or one region. That is so fucking dangerous right now. And I think most of you don't even realize how dangerous that is long term. Maybe not tomorrow or next month or 6 months from now or this year, but long term. There are a lot of you who are in very big trouble and you don't realize how much trouble you're in. I won't go into detail, but there are a lot of you. I see your comments, I see your DMs, I see your statements. A lot of you are in really big trouble down the road and you don't even realize it. You're just making excuses for whatever reasons you want. And I understand it's difficult to move out of the country or establish flags and things like that. But I think a lot of you are discounting what is coming in terms of this worldwide phenomenon. So that is where you are correct. You are right in that every country in the world sucks. I have said this many, many times. I've been saying this since 2014. when I said it in my book, The Unchained Man, alphamalebook.com. I have an entire little piece in there. It's called Your Country Sucks. And I write in that book, I don't care what country you're from, it sucks. There are major, major things wrong with your country. So if you live in that country and that is the only place you live, it's the only place which you earn income, it's the only place where you can have sex with women, it's the only place where you have 100% of your life, you're suffering because you're putting up with those things that suck in your country, right? Whereas if you lived a more diversified international Five Flags or Five Flags-ish lifestyle, you would not have to suffer from the things about your country that suck. By the way, that includes me. My primary residence is here in Dubai as I record this podcast. There are things about Dubai I don't like. Namely, summer. June, July, and August is horrible here. It sucks. That's one of the ways in which Dubai sucks. But guess what? I'm location dependent. So every June, July, August, I leave. I go away, and I can still pay my bills because I'm location dependent. You see how this works? I'm not affected by the things that suck. And you are when you're location dependent. Now, let's dig more into this about everywhere sucks, the whole world sucks. I have mentioned this before. I'm going to go into great detail about this right now. There are approximately 195 countries in the world. Okay, I want you to think logically for a minute. I know it's hard for some of you, but try. There's 195 countries in the world, right? Right. With all these countries, they have aspects that are bad and aspects that are good, right? Every country has a certain amount of bad and a certain amount of good. All of these 195 countries. With me so far? Got it. Okay. Some of these countries are really, really bad. The bad far outweighs the good. North Korea. You probably don't want to move to North Korea. If you lived in North Korea, the bad column, the bad bar on the bar chart is way higher than the good bar. Even if you can find some good things about living in North Korea, the bad things would outweigh it. Right? I think we can all agree. Right? Right. Okay. There are a few countries like that. Maybe right now you don't want to live in Myanmar. The bad outweighs the good. I'm not saying there's nothing good about Myanmar. There are some great things about Myanmar. I would love to invest in Myanmar. It's going to be a very big growth country down the road. But you probably don't want to be in Myanmar right now. Right? Right. Because at least right now, the bad far outweighs the good. So we can agree that there are several countries in the world, maybe a lot of countries in the world, where the bad far outweighs the good. Great. Here's what you do. You take those countries off the table. Are those all 195 countries in the world? Does the bad outweigh the good in all 195 countries on the planet Earth? No. I'm sure the answer is no, because you would say that doesn't count to your country because your country, according to a lot of you, isn't bad yet. Okay, right? So clearly then we've established, we agree that we can, of the 195 countries, we can take a chunk of those countries away. Now we have a smaller list of countries where the bad doesn't outweigh the good. It either matches the good, it's on parity, or the good is outweighing the bad with some of these countries, right? Right. Now these remaining countries that are not that bad, are these all equal? Let's say there's 80 countries left or 40 countries left. I don't know what the number is, okay? Are all 80 or 40 of these countries equally good or equally bad? No. Some of these countries are less bad than others, right? Right. That's why you will notice I say go to a less bad country, not a good country. Because you could argue, you could make a valid argument based on what we just talked about, that every country is quote unquote bad. And by the way, that's true. That's true. There are no more, I'll be super honest with you, there are no more good countries. Many years ago, there were some good countries. There were about 8 or 9 countries that were really good a few decades ago. Hong Kong used to be a really good country. Not anymore. Switzerland used to be a really good country. Not anymore. There used to be a few countries that were good. Today, yes, they are all bad. But here's the thing. They're not all equally bad. Some of them are less bad than others. And I promise you this, there are at least 4 or 5, 6 countries in the world that are less bad on the overall than your country, the country where you're living. And the reason I know this is most of you listening to the sound of my voice are in a Western country. You're in the United States, Canada, or Europe, particularly Western Europe, or Australia, New Zealand. I promise you, bro, there are at least 5 or 6 countries, probably 15 countries, that on the overall are much less bad than those goddamn authoritarian, high tax, angry, collapsing, economically tottering countries. There are. I have 2 homes, Dubai and Paraguay. Those are far less bad than the United States when you add everything up on both sides. Are they perfect countries? No, they're still bad. Dubai is bad, Paraguay is bad, but it's not nearly as bad as the United States, or at least most regions of the United States. It's not nearly as bad as Canada or Australia, where you need a cerveza sickness jab in order to leave the country. Insanity. So yes, there are places you can go where things would be better. Yes, there are. I know that's hard to admit emotionally. And let me address that really quick. In my book, The Unchained Man, I talk about societal programming. I have several chapters specifically on that. And I talk about how there's about there's about 8 or 9 different types of societal programming. And I say in that book, and I'm right, the strongest and most powerful form of societal programming is cultural societal programming. That is when you are raised from a small child into adolescence, into adulthood, you are wired in by your environment that says, my country or my culture is the best. And other countries suck, or other cultures suck compared to my culture. I have talked before how angry and defensive a lot of Scandinavians get when I point out negative facts about their countries. They get really pissed off and very defensive. Before, about 10 years ago, a lot of American right-wingers, when you attacked America, they'd get very angry and very defensive. This is the best country in the world, fuck you. Now, it's interesting, they don't do that anymore because they know their country's fucked and collapsing. They don't really do that anymore. They instead turn around and scream about feminists and socialism and things like that. You know what's fascinating about that is, I was thinking about this the other day. This is pretty funny and kind of sad. In my ex-country, the United States, usually historically, people who defended the United States were the right-wingers. The conservatives, the Christians, the Republicans, they would defend, no, America's great and America's the best country in the world, the best country in the world. We're so much better than Europe. We're so much better everywhere else. It's so great. That really doesn't happen anymore. When you say negative things about America, they generally either agree with you or they start ruminating about, well, we just got to re-elect Trump and he'll fix everything, or bullshit like that. Because like I said earlier, they're insane. Yeah, okay. But you know what's really interesting to me now? When I say negative things about the collapse of the United States, I don't get a lot of Americans fighting back, pushing back on that. I do get some people who are immigrants who just immigrated to the United States from a shithole third world country, and they talk about how great America is because it is great compared to what they're used to. But in terms of Americans, I don't get a lot of Americans pushing back on that like I used to 10 plus years ago. But when I do get Americans defending America today, you know who it is? It's the left. It's the left-wingers, which is so funny because the left has spent the past 35 years bashing America, saying how horrible America is and how racist it is and income inequality and all the billionaires are destroying the country and those damn Republicans, those damn conservatives, and blah, 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 and we should take all the guns away. The left are the ones who have been attacking America. And what's fascinating to me now is the few Americans who are defending America are left-wingers. And they don't do it like the right-wingers used to do it. They do it very differently. They say, well, no, I mean, everything will be fine. I mean, it'll be okay. I mean, you know, we can print all the money we want. We could print trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars whatever we want, and everything will be perfectly fine forever. Right, guys? Right? It'll be okay. I mean, LA's okay. We'll turn LA around. You know, we'll clean up LA and it'll be better than ever. We'll turn, Seattle around. It'll be better than, we'll turn around Portland. Portland will be better than ever, guys. Right? Right? Those are the left-wingers. Now, if the only people defending America are the fucking left-wingers, you know it's the end times. You know it's fucked up. I mean, my God. Oh my God. It's so amazing. If I went back in time just 20 years ago and told my past self, hey, America is not only collapsing, but the only people who defend it are the fucking left-wingers. What? I wouldn't believe me. It's true. But back to my original point. The most powerful programming there is in terms of societal programming is cultural societal programming. It's very hard to overcome. So when someone comes along, some asshole like me comes along and says, hey, guess what? There are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries that are better than your country right now. And if you move these countries right now or in the next year or so, you'd be living a better life than living in your country. There is a huge upswell of cultural societal programming deep within you that says, well, fuck you, that's not true. Now, none of it's accurate. It's all emotional. It's all bullshit. Societal programming is false. Go read The Unchained Man at alphamale.book.com, and I go into detail about why it's false. So it's all just an emotional reaction. It's not logic. It's not fact-based. It's not objective. And the fact-based, rational, logical, objective answer is yes. There are some places you can go, especially if you live in the Western world, but even if you don't. There are at least 7, 8, 9 countries that I can pick out. And we've talked a lot about them in my YouTube videos and various things like that, my courses. Go check out my YouTube channel about the top 10 places to move to or the 5 best countries for men. I got a lot of videos about this. Okay, check that out. There are at least 7, 8, 9 countries where you could go that are better than where you live. Now, I said better. I didn't say they're perfect. I didn't say you won't like certain things. Depending on when this podcast goes up, I just posted a video about me living in Dubai for a year. Now I've lived in Dubai for a year, and I go through 6 things that I really like about Dubai I didn't know about Dubai before I moved here, and another 6 things that I don't like about Dubai that kind of irritate me about Dubai, okay? So nothing is perfect, but it is less bad. And that's what you want if those are your only options. You want less bad. And there are several countries that I know for a fact are less bad than your current country. And yes, you can make up all the bullshit excuses. I don't want to move to South America. The crime rates are too high, which is false. I don't want to move to Southeast Asia. I'll get some kind of disease. False. I don't want to move to Dubai. They don't let women drive cars. False. You can make up all the false bullshit reasons you can possibly come up with. And I'm sure emotionally they will make you feel better for 5 minutes, and you'll still be stuck in your shitty collapsing country because you're incorrectly saying that there's nowhere you can go. Yes, the entire world has some major problems and they're going to get worse, but that doesn't mean there are places you can't go. There are. And what you need to do is calm down, turn on your brain, put away your defensive emotions, put away your cultural societal programming, and look at these other countries objectively. Matter of fact, I have an entire course that shows you how to pick a country that is less bad than yours. It's called Escape Plan. You can go to escapeplancourse.com. You can check it out if you want, or I show you actually how to pick a country. But regardless, whatever you end up doing, look at this factually and objectively. That's what I had to do when I made the decision to move out of the United States many, 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 many years ago. I looked at lots of different countries, factually and objectively. I looked at their economies. I looked at their crime rates. I went and visited these countries for a week or more at a time, every single one of them, to make sure I liked it. I went and visited them several times, a week at a time, to make sure it was all okay, to make sure it was the kind of place I liked, to make sure I could handle the negatives, because every country's going to have new negatives. You've got to do that and go through that process. If you just stamp your foot and cross your hands like a little 5-year-old in kindergarten saying, no, there's nowhere else I can go. My country that I happen to have been born in is the least bad country in the world. Think about how stupid that is. What are the statistical probabilities of that? 195 countries? You just happen to have been born in the least bad country in the world? Wrong-o, pal. Sorry. And those of you in the United States in particular, just because your country was amazing once a long time ago does not mean it's amazing now. Yes, the United States was the greatest country in the history of the world. Again, I'm speaking factually. That is true. The greatest country in the history of the world. Not the most perfect country. It's always had problems. And it's always done things I hated, certainly as a libertarian. But still been the best country in the world, historically, long term. Is it today? No. And a lot of right-wingers hate when I say that. But it's true. Just because you were amazing 50 years ago or 100 years ago, just because Western civilization did amazing things 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 150 years ago, does not mean it's working today. It is a completely dysfunctional zombie corpse on the operating table. That's the Western world. And it's flopping around because of all the heroin and all the drugs that the doctor keeps pumping into it. It's flopping around so it looks like it's alive when in fact it's on death's door. And it is, historically speaking. Be rational and objectively look at other options. Don't just say there's nowhere you could go. You're wrong. You're factually wrong. I'm sorry, but you are. And I'm not sorry because that's a good thing. Cool? Cool. All right. That's it. I'll see you in the next podcast next week. Have fun. Bye.